Welcome to the Copper King Mine and Railroad. Today we're going to talk about the 1906 smoke litigation lawsuits. The farmers versus the big smelters in the valley. This is a true David and Goliath story, so stay tuned. Smoke farming, 1906 smoke litigation suit. Ore was discovered at Bingham in 1863. But it wasn't until the construction of the Southern Utah Railroad, then lines to the canyons, that the mines started to flourish. Here's a picture of Bingham Canyon and the Camp FLOYD Railroad. It's a map going west to Bingham. And here's a picture of Bingham Billy. He's one of the steam engines that made that trip up to Bingham. With the railroad came smelters. They built in the valley along the Jordan River. Now these smelters were small, and it was estimated by 1880 that the valley had 34 smelters. This map from Don Strack, found at utahrails.net, shows the location of some of these smelters. Here's some pictures of those older smelters. This is Germania smelter, and that was in Murray. Here's a smelter at Bingham Junction, later would be called Midvale. In this picture in the front there's a picture of the old Pioneer Indian Cemetery. You can just barely see that tall headstone right there. A portion of that headstone's still there. It's surrounded by condominiums now. This picture is another smelter. This is the commercial smelter, and this is taken in 1902. And then we have the Highland Boy smelter, and that was smelter over Murray. We're going to talk a lot about the Highland Boy smelter today. Oh, then there's this picture. It's taken from top of the smokestack, and that's State Street running through there. And look at Murray. Wow, there's nothing in there. With the stability of the statehood in 1899, large smelters were being built, consolidating and purchasing smaller smelters to eliminate competition. By 1906, only 5 mineral reduction smelters remained. Now here's a card with the list of those 5 smelters. American Smelter and Refining Company, Asargo, and that was in Murray, and that's a lead smelter. United States Smelting and Refining Company, USSRCO, that was at Bingham Junction, later to become Midvale, and that was a lead smelter. They also had a copper smelter there. I think it was called Bingham Consolidated, and they said it was in Murray, but I think it was in Midvale, but I'm not sure on that. And then there was the Highland Boy smelter, or the Utah Consolidated smelter, and that was in Murray, and that was a copper smelter. This is a picture taken in 1906, and it's looking over the valley when they was building the low-grade line or the high line. And look how smoky the valley is. Then here's some pictures of those smelters, and look how much smoke they're putting out into the air. And they had farms all around this area. With larger smelters came increased roasting capacity and little or no regard for recovery of flume or dust. Smelting sulfur-bearing lead and copper ores release into the atmosphere metal dust, such as lead and arsenic, two of the bad ones. Also, sulfur dioxide gas, and then mixed with moisture produces sulfuric acid, the term we now know as acid rain. Now these burned and poisoned the farmers' crops and stock. The farmers had enough. So in 1904, David McCleery and several other farmers brought and won the first smoke nuisance case, McCleery versus Highland Boy. Encouraged by the victory, 409 farmers started the second suit. This was called Goffrey versus Asargo. Now, the smelters did not challenge the farmers' damage claims, citing their greater economic benefits to the community, stating pollution controls were commercially unfeasible. But then by November 5, 1906, Federal District Court Judge John Marshall supported the farmers' appeal and implemented pollution controls. American Smelter and Refining Company and United States Smelter and Refining Companies both closed briefly, then reopened with pollution controls, mostly the baghouse. The U.S. copper smelter in Midvale would discontinue. The Highland Boy or Utah Consolidated smelter in Murray will terminate their operations in the Salt Lake Valley. We have some great pictures of this Highland Boy smelter, and then later pictures when it was being tore down. There's a few opinions where it was at. Some say it was north of 5900 south and east of the Jordan River. Another report said it was 57 south and 950 west. And the other said it was by Bullion Street. That's around that area anyway. Here's some pictures of the farm around that area. This one was labeled Lester. Then when I was on the Jordan River Parkway Trail once, I found this marker and it says the Lester Holding. So if you're out on that Jordan River Trail, look for this marker. You can see where these smelters was at. Then some pictures of the Murray smelter and the Midvale smelter over time. And this was a common occurrence, is dumping the slag over these slag hills. The Highland Boy smelter will build a large smelter on the west side of the Ochre Mountains in Tooele Valley, up Pine Canyon, called the International Smelter. If you remember my video on the aerial trams, they changed direction. Now this is why they changed direction, to go west to the new International Smelter. And that will start running May 13th, 1910. Now the lawsuits will continue over the years with a lot of friction between the farmers and the smelters. The smelters will plant their own crops around their smelters and do their own research. And of course, Asargo will build the large copper smelter at Garfield at the north end of the Ochre Mountains next to the Great Salt Lake. Construction started in that in 1905. That will be up in Kaiser Canyon. That's what that's called, where that smelter's at. Now, there's a lot more to this story, and many parts of the story came from the Utah Historical Quarterly, Summer 2004, Volume 72, Number 3, Smoke Farming. So that's the 1906 smoke litigation, or smoke farming.